Okay, so I'm gonna make sure. Okay, where, are you, no, are you muted? Yeah, you're muted. So, is it on now? Yeah, it is. But I'm getting- My computer is muted, Zoom is muted. Serena, can you hear us?
I can now. I had my volume way down from another meeting.
Okay, so you can hear me.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I'm muted. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not. Hold it, is that better? No, muted. I am muted. I am unmuted. So why is? Okay, is that better? Yes. 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 Okay, yay. Okay. We're going to start the meeting at 4:02, and Serena, you can hear me, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you so much for our technical support. All righty, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to do a roll call. Nona, you're here. Dee, you're here. MJ, you're here. I am here. Jennifer Hammer, and Wanda is not here. And we have our town council liaison, Craig, is here. Craig Taylor. And give me the thumbs up when I can move on, MJ. What? Are you ready for us to move? Oh, yeah. Okay. Is there any oral communications for items not on the agenda? Okay. I'd like to have approval of the minutes for March 20th. Do I have a motion? Second? Okay, Nona, so Dee gave the motion, Nona, second. Show of hands. Okay, unanimous approval. Great. All right, item 4A, fire marshal updates. So first of all, Fire Marshal Giuliacci had a death in the family and will not be attending today. I know all our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family. I'm going to give some status on the 2401 ordinance and the May workshop because I've been in email contact with her, and then I'm going to turn it over to her representatives to give some general district updates. So as I'm sure most of you know, the ordinance, the draft ordinance 2401 had the first reading last month at the district board meeting. And the second reading, and most likely the vote to pass the ordinance, will take place on April 30th. The final draft of the ordinance is not in our agenda packet today, so we will not be discussing this in length or voting to endorse the ordinance. I had asked him to send me the final ordinance. She was getting ready to go out of town. I think she thought I could find it on the website. By the time I realized she wasn't sending it, I couldn't find it on the website. And then by the time she got back, I was gone and I had sent in the agenda packet because I had to send it in early. So we were like ships passing in the night. But the ordinance is now on the fire district website. If you search for 2401, 2 different copies will come up, and the correct one has a little tiny label at the top that says March 26. It doesn't say final or anything, but you can tell that it's the current draft. And anyone who wants to make comments on the ordinance can do so at the fire district board meeting on April 30th. That Zoom link can be found on their website for the meeting. It's woodsidefireprotectiondistrict.com. And there's a time at the beginning of the meeting that you can make your comments. We did look at the final version and it's exactly as Kim said it would be. They removed that couple paragraphs on adjacent parcels and they added a couple of little phrases to sentences. But at least when I looked at it today, I didn't see any major differences. The May workshop is going to go on. So next month, instead of our meeting, Kim will be here to do a workshop. And it'll be part of our meeting, so it will be an official Portola Valley Wildfire Preparedness Committee meeting, but our agenda item will just have workshop by the fire district. So the format will be just like the last workshop where she will give a presentation, the committee will ask some questions, and then residents can ask questions. She's going to focus in on home hardening, which I think should be very interesting. And then she said she'll add some defensible space and of course take questions on the ordinance. She is hoping that the draft of the guidelines will be available on the website by that workshop. I know she's passed those guideline, that draft to our subcommittee, which they will give a report on, and then conservation. So I think she'll wait. Oh, you haven't received it? Okay, well, she thought she had. I think
Is there video of the what's happening in the room? It's not not coming up. So when you are speaking,
let me start video. Thank you so much, Serena. Thank you by my tech support. Thank you so much. Hopefully you can see us now.
Yes.
I'm checking the email from him. And she's had, they got whacked with a couple of grandparents passing away.
Yeah.
So you may have to
Understand
remind her.
completely, but
Let me.
We can discuss in our subcommittee as well.
Yeah, during this, let me research that, but I think she thinks she sent it, but I will check the emails to tell you, and that way maybe she'll have to.
And I sent it out.
Yeah, but she would, if she sent it to the subcommittee, she would send it with a separate email. It would have to be to, let's continue that under that heading. So anyways, they're hoping if they get all the feedback to have those guidelines on the website. And my goal is to include it in the May agenda packet so that residents can ask questions about the guidelines. Does anyone have any questions about that status that I just gave before I turn it over to the district for more general status? Okay, you guys want to take over? Is your mic on?
No.
Let me start over. Testing.
Yeah, there we go.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. My name is Marshall Hurd. I'm the Deputy Fire Marshal for Woodside Fire Protection District. And along with me today, I have Dan Dempsey, our Fuel Mitigation Specialist. And Kim just wanted me to update you on a couple points here throughout the last few months. One thing is many of our staff members attended 2 large conventions. The first one was in San Diego, hosted by the CFPA, the California Prevention Institute Conference. And that was the first week in March. And that's a kind of a collaboration between the Northern and the Southern California fire marshals. And they get together and there's lots of different classes and exhibits and things like that. The second one that we attended that most of us all attended was the WUI conference in Reno. And that's the annual Urban Wildland Interface Conference. It's hosted by the International Fire Chiefs. And I'll share with you one little thing that was really interesting for me at that conference is they had representatives, fire officials from Greece, Spain, Australia, Canada, and Portugal. And the number one thing across the board, everyone's having extreme fire behavior and issues with evacuation across the entire world. Everyone had the exact same. It was really interesting to hear that we're experiencing that here and we think it's just a state issue, but it's really a global issue. So that was something that's a thing. Any questions on the conferences?
Marshall, I'm
Yes.
sorry. You said the other countries had concerns about it?
No, they're experiencing the similar situations with extreme fire behavior and evacuations issues. You know, kind of like the Paradise Fire and different fires that we've had here in California the last few years. But it's interesting to hear that that's a global thing, not just a state or, you know. Jennifer, or someone, I'm sorry, you covered all the stuff on the ordinance. Prevention staff's been doing some interaction with the public. We're hosting a table at several of the grocery stores. Our first one was last Thursday at Robertson Woodside. We reached out to probably 20 or 25 people in about 2 hours, and about 30% of those people had interest in the ordinance. Other people just, you know, weren't from the district, just wanted to talk or was complaining about other things. The next one will be hosted tomorrow at Robertson Portola Valley. The times are from 4 to 6. And then again on Thursday, 4:25, and that one will be at Bankini's Market from 4 to 6. And that's just a little outreach we're doing for the community with the ordinance. I'll touch on this. It doesn't really affect Portola Valley too much, but we're working with Fireside Program to kind of build the data collection to include the grants. And so Las Trancos, Vista Verde has a grant program where they can get funding. Woodside also has a funding program where they can get matching funds. And so we're incorporating that into our Fireside so we can differentiate who's actually benefiting from those and pull that information out and actually track it. So that's something we're adding to the Fireside. Other than that, I didn't have anything else. Our chipper program is going to be kicking off. Our flyers will be going out in the mail, so that's happening. So.
Craig, got it.
Yes, most of it is the chipper program and some information on the ordinance and the schedule. And that should be, most of those should have been out. If not, they're going out shortly. I saw the stack on that.
Got it. You've seen it, right? Yeah. Did you get you said it has gone out?
Some
or-
have gone out, yeah.
Okay.
Some have gone out and
Did you
some are
say
still
you-
in the
you've got
stack.
it?
I got it a week ago. I got it about a week ago.
Yeah, so they're putting them out in mass mailing, so. It's also, all that information is also available on our website too for that.
Mhm. Okay.
Serena, you had a question?
I did. So I saw it on the website, the statement of what zones are going to be, their timeline is starting and inspections will begin in 2024. Is there a listing somewhere of what ones are going to be for 25 and what ones are going to be 25 and what ones are going to be 26?
I would have to double check to see if that's been established. I don't know if we've scheduled it that far out yet. I'm not sure on that.
That would be a great question for next month.
I'll take note of that and double
yeah.
check.
Rebecca,
Hi, I was just curious if the public is going to have a chance to get a draft of the guidelines before the vote at the end of the month. It seems extraordinarily odd to me that we're ramming through this defensible space ordinance without all of the material available and finished and finalized, and without the public having actually seen the whole thing. So I would like to know how I can get a copy of that draft guideline document.
I don't know if that'll actually be going out to the public ahead of time. I would have to double check with Kim. That's not part of the ordinance.
I'd suggest, have you contacted Kim about it, the fire marshal?
Yes,
I'd
she
like to
told
speak to
me
that
that it
also,
was
but
going to
Craig-
be released 2 weeks ago. So
So I think the question you're asking is, can you get a copy of the ordinance?
No.
no.
Of the
The
okay,
draft guidelines.
okay.
So the initial plan,
I would say the ordinance is on the website.
Yes.
It's under the prevention section.
Right. Right. No, and I told them about 5 minutes ago how to find that, and I agree, it is hard to find. No, she's talking about the guidelines. So, the plan currently was that the draft guidelines have just gone to our subcommittee as well as the Conservation Committee yesterday. It was sent to the Conservation, at least Kim thinks that it came on the 16th. And that our committees were going to give her input. And then she was going to add that input and then put the draft on the website. And then I believe that the board has to vote on the guidelines. So I can't imagine the board voting on those guidelines till May, because they certainly can't vote on the guidelines next week because she hasn't even gotten the input back from the committees. And also, those guidelines are going to be more of a living document. It's going to be something that I would imagine will be updated as the district learns more about what residents are confused about. But I would encourage you to go to the board meeting on the 30th and voice your concerns that you want to see the guidelines before the ordinance is passed. I never can pronounce your name. Alani and Bud. Go ahead.
It's actually Bud speaking. Rebecca, you said you want to know if it's online. I might, on my computer in this room, I have it online right now looking at the ordinance. So it is available on the website, Woodside Fire.
Yes, the ordinance is available, and I think Rebecca was talking about the guidelines document. So there's two documents we're talking about. We're talking about the actual 2401 ordinance, and then because any ordinance, you know, when an inspector comes out, there's a lot to know about that ordinance. The fire district graciously agreed to create this guidelines document that's really going to hopefully go into detail to say, you know, what's a flammable plant? What is some suggestions about how you can kind of get ahead of this ordinance? I know that our committee was actually hoping that those guidelines would also be at least a draft ready before the ordinance was voted in, and this is where we are. So
I'd like to
I
speak.
have every expectation that they're going to work with us. Yes, Dee.
And this is just going into our mitigation subcommittee, right? Can we?
Well, we will.
Okay.
So, but this is just up, we're just answering questions right now about this status update, and then we're going to go into your subcommittee.
Oh, wait.
Rebecca, did that answer your question?
Well, the only thing I heard is that we don't know where this document is. The subcommittee doesn't seem to know where it is.
No, we know where it is.
Conservation hasn't gotten it.
No,
I don't know.
We absolutely know where it is. The first draft was sent to our subcommittee, and at least one member well, they're going to give a report on it in about 2 minutes. So hold on, and then you're going to know exactly where this document is, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to move agenda item 5C, the mitigation subcommittee update, up. And so we're going to discuss 5C before we discuss 4C, which is the Finance and Insurance Subcommittee survey, because the fire district is here and we want them here when we discuss the mitigation subcommittee update on Firewise and then this guidelines document. So I'm going to turn it over to Dee and MJ for the mitigation subcommittee update.
Great, thank you so much. So I did receive a draft of the defensible space guidelines, and because of the Brown Act, we wanted to be, Kim wanted to be cautious. She only sent it to me. I sent it to MJ, Serena, our Ladera, I forget his name, our Ladera. Daniel at our Ladera colleague, and also Nona. But I also asked not to reply to me, again, for fear of Brown Act violation. I've gone through the guidelines, and those folks have independently looked at it, and MJ has sent her feedback directly to Kim. In my own opinion, I think we have a lot of work to do. And I was also, as Jennifer said, as we were working through the ordinance, Kim kept telling us there's legalese that she had to write the ordinance in a way, their lawyers were telling them they had to write the ordinance in certain language, but that there should be, they were going to produce a second document to help the public understand really how this could apply. And I think that those are the concerns that this committee has brought up time and time again. How do we mitigate, but also use best practices in land management? How do we mitigate and also take care of, this wonderful ecology that we have? And so my understanding is that this companion document would be answering those questions in ways that folks could really use and hold. I'm not an expert in our native plants or our ecology. And I would love to actually have a working group. If this is what we had talked about, is I would love to be able to put together a working group so that we all could sit around and talk. Like, I still haven't been able to hear information from Nona. She's our expert on this committee, but because we don't have time during these meetings to actually get into the nuts and bolts of it. My question was going to be to you is there a way to have a special meeting similar to what Kim has requested for next month, but maybe in an additional meeting where folks could really come and bring their exact ideas. They could look at this guideline. We could put it up on the screen and really work through it and come up with a document that truly helps. I don't know what the logistics are for, creating a special meeting, but that was a proposal that I wanted to bring tonight. Because quite honestly, I would like to see, just personally, I would like to see the ordinance and the guidelines be complete and proceed together. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but I would like to do whatever we could from our end to make that happen. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that. The second thing we need to talk about is Firewise, but
Okay,
I wanna.
so first of all, yeah, we can make it happen. There's lots of different ways to happen. The real trick is just finding a time where there's not another meeting going on in the schoolhouse if we want to record it. And getting 3 of us to be willing to be there so we have a quorum.
Do we have a?
Absolutely, we can do it. And I would applaud it. And I just want to make a comment. So first of all, I agree with everything you've said. The guidelines document, and I'm just going to kind of give a different perspective because I'm kind of the bureaucrat in the committee. So the guidelines document is not an official companion document. It was always intended to clarify for residents. And unfortunately, the way ordinances work is the minute an ordinance is passed, you have to trust your police department or your fire department to have the best interest of the community in mind and to implement it fairly and to listen to the community. And I will just say that this ordinance process has been so beautifully done in so many ways that the district, for the first time in my experience, took tremendous amount of input. They answered questions. They've been there. They've modified the ordinance based on concerns. And I am very, very hopeful that that guidelines document is going to be a learning document for both the district and the residents, where the district will say, huh, we didn't realize there's so many questions. Well, sure, this makes sense. And they're going to clarify. And people are going to say, well, can I keep my roses if I do this? And we're concerned about the trees, and the district will say, well, of course you're concerned about the trees, so are we. And it's going to be a tool to help alleviate a lot of concerns. I would have really loved to see a robust guidelines document before this ordinance passed, because I hear so many concerns about the ordinance. But I just am very hopeful, given the wonderful process we've had and the goodwill that the district has shown in the last 4 months, will continue through, and they'll work very hard with us about this guideline and listen to our concerns. And yes, let's get that on the schedule so we can start getting some working sessions. And maybe we can even find out a way that other members of the Conservation Committee, maybe we can have a joint meeting. I can check with Carrie how
mean,
that might happen.
A special meeting, the whole idea of having a special meeting is that you would post the agenda and it would be open to the public, right? Or
Yeah.
not. So, so certainly conservation and anyone who is concerned or involved or wants to have a say could come. And again, as I said, I would like to put it up on the screen and let's really work through the details. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely so appreciative of Marshall Giuliacci to all of her efforts. And I've told her that personally. It's been such a pleasure to work with her, and that she really listens. She's here. She's giving us information. She's working with us. And I just like to continue that. It's in that spirit, right, of having residents who are concerned. And if, honestly, if things come up in that discussion, then the ordinance should reflect it. I mean, I just, in my own personal opinion, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I know that this has been drawn out. I know it's taken lots of months. But we're not there yet. Honestly, as far as mitigating in a way that is ecological sensitivity, that includes that, and that gives folks some flexibility, and that truly takes care of the land that we're so wanting to protect. There's lots of different ways to protect that land. And I understand that the ordinance is coming from how do we mitigate fire? But I think that you have to see both of them at the same time. So I'm not sure how to proceed about
So-
dates.
So how I want to proceed is I need to get, and we're going to, Rebecca, I see your hand. I'm going to come back. So we'll get all these questions. And then before we close this topic, I want to find out more details about what you have in mind, because you and MJ would be in charge of the workshop. I'm just kind of like
Okay.
opening the meeting. And once we get that agenda and format down, I'll check and make sure it's okay with the town manager, because I have to get approval for any extra meetings. And then it's just a question of finding some dates that work for everybody, which is just doing a poll. And then we schedule it as soon as we can.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Just a quick comment. It's up to Kim how she wants to go ahead and direct that. I'm not going to speak for her on that. But the reason they're separate is, like you kind of mentioned, the guidelines are a living document. It's not the Bible. The ordinance has to be voted in. That's the Bible. The guidelines we can grow with. We can say, okay, this isn't working. We can change that in the guidelines without having to go through the whole process with the ordinance and have it completely re-voted on and that. So that's why those guidelines are a little more adaptable. and kind of separate from the ordinance, even though they're indirectly connected, it's not in the ordinance for like together as a vote, if that makes sense.
And I think we have to be careful. If we're going to give input on the guidelines document, it is not to re-legislate the ordinance. We're really just trying to interpret the ordinance for everybody, every lay person to be able to follow what it's telling them. So I don't know how much of the eco stuff was in the ordinance, but you know, I wouldn't want us to go beyond what the ordinance already had in that area.
Also, you know, just because it's in the guidelines, it doesn't mean that when an inspector comes out, he can say, well, yeah, we said roses were okay, but in this circumstance, they're not. It is a guideline, but the ordinance still gives the district wide and probably very importantly gives them wide range of power to identify things that are not safe. Nona.
Yeah, just speaking from the Conservation Subcommittee, I think we're in a slightly awkward place right now because we gave the fire marshal feedback on, well, it wasn't even feedback at that point because we didn't have the guidelines. But, you know, we had a lot of questions about what it might mean to have exceptions in 0 to 5 on ground cover. And so we made up a table of this should qualify, that should qualify. And it was based on Board of Forestry workshop information. And I've written Kim a couple of times to see whether or not we should be providing more feedback. I know she was on vacation. I know there were all kinds of things, you know, in her schedule that probably interfered with that, but I haven't heard from her. So she must have corresponded with our committee chair rather than me, which is fine. And then the other thing I want to mention is that I think our subcommittee, you know, we feel like we've been giving Kim quite a lot of stuff. And the next thing we were going to work on is what does it mean to have an exception for some vines, right? That's a question we get quite a lot. And our subcommittee thought it would be better to wait, partly because we realized that Portola Valley is not going to be inspected this year. And so from our perspective as a Portola Valley subcommittee, it's not as sort of pressing as it might have been, especially if we want to view this as a living document where, I mean, I realize Woodside is subject to the same guidelines and ordinance, but at least for our subcommittee, we just want to work on whatever timetable works for the fire marshal.
Yeah, and I agree. I think this is a living document and we can't anticipate what the next question is going to be because people are going to have unique circumstances and new questions are going to come up every month. And as they come up, we should perhaps feel emboldened to send Kim a paragraph and say, you know, would you consider adding this to the guidelines? Because this question came up and this is what we think is the correct answer. And is that the correct answer? And this might make your inspectors' lives easier because people will understand this. That's how I viewed the guidelines, as a way to be able to read it, to prepare for inspection, to prepare to landscape your property, to create that 5-year plan in your mind, that this is the direction you want to go, because what is mulch and what are flammable plants, and it's very complicated.
And so let me just add one last thing, which is that, you know, the Conservation Subcommittee has already presented some information to conservation. And so, you know, we put up the table during our meeting. So we've already made public what we thought were some reasonable ideas about 0 to 5. So I can share that at any point. It's public at this point.
I think Dee would love it. Dee, is that what you guys saw in the first draft of the guideline?
We saw a lot of things, and I think we got a lot of work for this to be, we've got a lot of work to do so that this becomes a true helpful document for folks. So I don't really want to go through all of it now. And that's helpful. I appreciate it. You know, you can And again, it's in the spirit of we've heard responses from our community about, and concerns from our community about this ordinance. And in the specific answers to that, I think that they have graciously offered, let's do this guideline, right? So, I'm going to keep my focus working on this so that it becomes, and I appreciate your comment that it is a livable working, because it is going to change, right? Like guidelines do, it should be a living document. I just want to keep it at the forefront.
Yep.
Until our public, until their questions are answered, right? Because they do come to us and say, what does this really mean? What does this mean for my lot?
I have one last kind of clarification question. I thought that the guidelines were going to be voted on by the board, that they wouldn't be a legal document.
They
but
are.
So will that happen at the, I see. Thank you.
What was that answer?
Well, it's going to be at least May because they have to at least put the guidelines on the website. They don't have to give us a 30-day review. That's not required because this is not, they could vote on it in a day because it's not an ordinance. But I can't imagine that they can't vote on it till May because she hasn't finished it. She hasn't even gotten the conservation feedback. So they're going to vote on it in May. And I will also say one thing before I open it up to questions. As somebody that actually wrote technical user manuals at one point in her life, it is tough to write an easy to read, understandable manual with this much content. And Kim is many things, but she tends to write a lot. And I guarantee you she's going to welcome. She's a wonderful person to edit for, to give suggestions to, because she's very open to all kinds of suggestions. I know that there'll be a lot of improvement we can make simply by saying this is really hard to understand. So I think that there is a lot of work that we can do. MJ?
Should we pick some dates now?
Yeah, well,
Because-
let me get the questions. Rebecca, you had a question.
Yes, and I hate to belabor my point, but I'm actually looking at section 3 applicability, subsection F on page 9 of the draft ordinance, and it actually says the fire code officials shall prepare standards and guidelines for defensible space and home hardening, the guidelines, which will serve as a supplemental instruction and interpretation resource. And then it ends that paragraph with the fire district board of directors shall approve by resolution the guidelines and any amendments. This is
Yep.
within the draft ordinance. So in my mind, the two of them, the first time around, should be considered together at the same time. I mean, the reality is if the public has trouble understanding the ordinance because of the obtuse language, then, we really, that the fire department really needs to make sure that the public understands through the guidelines what exactly is getting passed in 2 weeks. Otherwise, it's just, it doesn't help. It's not helpful to the public to then have meetings the week after to explain the ordinance. So I would really encourage the feedback going back to Kim that she needs to get those guidelines finished, and to the board that they should not be passing an ordinance that doesn't include the full information that's necessary to understand the ordinance.
Well, I just saw Marshall Hurd write down a note, so I think that feedback's going to go back to her. I encourage you to make this kind of statement at the board meeting. I think what you will find is because they're not going to start enforcing that ordinance right away, the shall clause would probably allow them to, to issue those guidelines in a couple of months. But I would love to see the guidelines come out at the same time as the ordinance. So I agree with you. And I encourage you, everybody watching, to go to the board meeting and speak your mind. Actually, yeah, Kim has said that they're going to ease people into it. I mean, obviously, if it was an egregious issue, but yeah, it's going to not be, I don't know, did she? I
But
seem to
it's
have heard
tied
that.
to the inspection,
Yeah,
right, Marshall? They have to go through the inspections before they do any enforcement.
and they're not, I mean, it has not been my impression that they were, this is my personal opinion after listening to Kim. Her intent does not seem to be to, on day one of this ordinance, to visit every home in Portola Valley and start taking pictures of zone 0 and issuing citations, that they're going to treat, I think they talked about the first year more as an educational, or the first inspection cycle is almost an educational. This is just my, you're right. This is my personal opinion, having listened to her. Okay. It is not the opinion of this committee.
Can the speaker please use the mic?
So what I was saying is, I want us to be careful as a committee to be thoughtful about what we put on the record. So personal opinion is fine, but I think unless we hear it directly from the fire marshal or the deputy fire marshal, but I believe I've heard, again, this is personally what I think I've heard, is that they're going to start inspections. They can't enforce them until 30 days after the ordinance, but the inspections are actually potentially going to start sooner. Marshall might be able to speak to that. Like, have you guys started inspections in zone 1 through 4? Because those are the first zones, right? As I understand it.
I mean, we're always doing inspections regularly. We haven't specifically started inspections targeting those different ones.
Look at the fire side.
Please be closer to the mic.
We have not started targeting the new zones for inspection.
So Marshall, if the ordinance passes this month, when would you start issuing citations
We'll
for
double
zone
check
0?
with Kim before I answer that.
Okay,
A lot of different opinions, everyone's different. I don't want to throw another one out there until it doesn't check.
right,
I appreciate that.
okay. Yeah, yeah, just to be absolutely clear, that was my personal opinion, what I had taken away from the many presentations she's made. But it's definitely, they could start enforcing 30 days before they would have that absolute legal right. Okay, so, and this is a great question for May, for next month. Okay, so when you talk about this workshop, who do we need to check dates for? Do you just, well, we can't set it today because we have to check the calendar to see when the town hall is
Well,
available.
Well,
the
we could look
schoolhouse.
at the town calendar right now.
Okay. You want to do that right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, let's start throwing up some
Sure.
dates. What
Okay.
dates work for you guys?
Well, we need a quorum, so it'd be you and I, and Nona, are you willing or able to?
Yeah.
I
and
would love
would do
for
it.
you.
Yeah, I'm very.
So when
interested.
when is the schoolhouse available?
When what?
When is the schoolhouse available?
Well, it looks like Mondays and Fridays are completely empty.
I am almost always completely empty on Mondays.
Yeah, and then, Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, anytime before 7. Look free. We're talking, I'm only looking at the rest of this month and the first week of May. Oh, she's off on
So,
Friday.
so Mondays are always for, is Monday a possibility? I mean, would we,
I'm available this Monday.
well, no, we're not going to be able to get it done this Monday. I mean, we got to give
Yeah,
the
I understand.
town staff a couple of weeks of leave.
On staff?
Well, I mean, I have to get approval to have a
Okay.
special meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and also I have to get approval from the town manager because it takes staff time.
Got it.
So you gotta notice it at least a week ahead. So that means,
Well, and I'm out of town the 29th. I could do the 13th. I could do the 20th.
wait,
What about the
Um,
6th,
The 6th of,
May?
no, I could do it I could do it after 12.
right, so
Um,
we're talking 2 weeks from now, Monday, May 6th. That date is blank on the calendar. Monday,
Fiona,
May
are you
6th.
available?
Yes.
Are you?
Yeah.
So we
What-
got a quorum with
So
Nona
what
and I,
time?
and
So what time?
I mean, and
I'm flexible.
Like 2 or 3 would be better for me. You want me to
Fine.
shoot for that?
2 o'clock on Monday, the 6th.
Okay.
Okay, and
Let,
what's
no,
that?
well, we're going to get a couple of different dates. If that date doesn't work for the town for some reason, if there's, because sometimes things are booked that it's not on the calendar.
Okay.
Would the 13th or the 20th be okay?
Oh, we didn't want to go for a Tuesday? We're only looking at Mondays?
Yeah, I could do, I just got back from a trip. I'd rather do the 13th or the 20th. I'd rather keep it to a Monday if it's okay with you guys.
I
The-
guess one question I have is, do we want the whole conservation subcommittee on defensible space here? If so, I need to ask them as well. I don't know their schedules.
Do you want that?
Again, the spirit of this is to get as many people who are concerned to be here and to be able to have a working group. And honestly, I think that we should maybe just keep working at it until we get it done. I mean, as long as we have a quorum, maybe we start it on the first day that's available and then we have a follow-up date, you know, so that's,
Do you guys want to do a Google poll and send it out to see and get the best possible dates?
sure.
Do you want to do that? Okay, so MJ and D, you're going to send out a Google poll and you could send it out. You can check to see who wants to participate.
Are you going to do
Your-
Mondays
did
and
your
Tuesdays?
Subcommittee already meet on a specific day?
No.
So Mondays in general, I can always do it. And I don't have to be there, but I think I should because, yeah. Are you going to chair?
Yeah, sure, any of us. He's a subcommittee chair, she can chair.
Okay. I'd like to be there though. I mean, I think I'd like to give input. I can do some Tuesdays. So just go ahead and send a poll out. Wednesdays I can't be there, but if you don't care if I'm there,
So first week of May, Mondays, Tuesdays are okay?
Tuesdays are iffy for me. I can always do a Wednesday afternoon.
Wednesday, the 8th, the town council meets at 7. Thursdays, look, there's a 1 o'clock and a 5 o'clock meeting. So it has to be Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday.
And
And
MJ,
then
you're gonna be
Friday
able to
was,
turn
Friday
on
was
the
out.
equipment, right? You're going to be able to
What?
get the equipment turned on and everything.
I don't know, as well as we did today.
Okay, all right. Good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
right now, we're just talking Monday and Tuesday, the 6th and 7th, and then the following week, then Monday, there's a 10 o'clock, the 13th, 10 o'clock has a meeting. But anytime after that would be good.
Mm.
And Tuesday, anytime before 6:30, that's still good. Okay, so now we have 4 possible dates.
Right, and I can't make the 14th, but if that's not a problem. And also, do you want Kim there or you don't care if Kim's there?
No, you want them there? or not?
I care,
Yeah.
I care about the community and I care about people's input.
So you might
Whoever
want
can
to,
get here, I'm trying to work through this frustration of this committee, we really can't get stuff done within this hour. And then we can't talk to each other because of the Browns Act violation. So I'm just trying to open up some spaces so that folks who are concerned about their vegetation and concerned about fire mitigation can come and have a voice. I'm also looking for folks that know a lot more than I do about how this stuff works. So I care, and whoever wants to be here, I want their voice.
so Dee, what about also, in addition, what about if our committee time went for 2 hours? And we always, because we don't have anything else coming up in our agenda except for the survey. And that an hour of our meetings or even an hour and a half were just the guidelines.
You're talking about today or?
Oh, no,
next?
just in the future.
Oh,
I mean, for the next 6 months. I mean, this is not going away with one workshop.
I'm open to all ideas.
I mean, I think,
Let's start with the beginning of May.
Yeah.
And see if we can get a working group, see what happens, see who shows up and go from there.
okay,
Yeah.
and then I can send out a doodle.
yeah, send out a doodle.
I just need to know who on your subcommittee to send it to. Okay. And I guess I can include, Cyrena, Lauren. Dan-
Irene is available for all 4 of those times.
Okay. And Rebecca, do you want me to email you too?
I'm sure.
Okay,
And I would love it if one of you would email me the guidelines.
okay, I'll do that.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you for your input, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
and you've checked with Kim that you can email, that she's okay with that? I
Sorry,
mean,
what?
that you can send the guidelines that she sent you. Is she okay about, I don't know. I'm not on the subcommittee.
I will check with her
Yeah.
as soon as she gets back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I mean, I think that was the other reason of why we're doing this. Instead of sending out all of these individual copies to
Right.
folks, let's have a working group where everybody can look
Right.
at it together and we don't have all these multiple versions, right? Like I would love to be able to give a package to Kim to say, here's what our public has come up with. Here's what our experts have come up with, instead of all of these individual things coming back to her.
and I will say, if you try to schedule 4 weeks out, you might get more people. It's hard for people to attend a meeting when they only have 2
I
weeks'
understand, but this
notice.
topic is also, because of the ordinance, is very pertinent.
Okay. So send me the dates. I need at least 2 weeks to get it through the town. Because I've got to get Sharif's, and I will send him an email tomorrow to get him his permission so that all I have to do is schedule it.
Okay.
I don't think he'll have a problem.
Thank you for the logistics.
No problem. Okay, is there any other questions? Oh, and then you're gonna, on the guidelines before we move to Firewise. Okay,
Okay. Our subcommittee has gotten really busy lately. Again, in the spirit of community and wanting to get input for folks, MJ and I have been looking at Firewise. And we are both in the Westridge proposed group. And we've had 3 different applications go there and come back. And so there's 2 things. We would love to see what this committee, what Wildfire Preparedness Committee can do to help more neighborhoods get involved and actually get approved. So we're just trying to think about how could we, so our proposal for now is to set up a table on May 2nd at the farmer's market. And again, just kind of see what kind of foot traffic we have coming through, what kind of questions. And hopefully be able to direct those questions to the board presidents of the existing committees and proposed neighborhoods. And just get some involvement, right? So I want to bring the community portion or the neighborhood portion of Firewise. We're trying to enhance that. So that was our proposal, is again to just start this, like just try, see how much, how many folks come by and how many people want to get involved. So May 2nd, we'll be sending out some information about May 2nd just to get the public aware. But this could also, I guess my own personal hope is that this becomes more of a recurring event. And so that we are getting people that are in their own neighborhoods, understanding who their block captains are, how to work together, how to look at mitigation stuff together. So we're just going to try it May 2nd, have a table out there and try to spread the word about Firewise.
So I think in the beginning, you had the question on the reason why the application had been rejected.
Well, we we had brought up this idea and then we found out that our application has been rejected.
This is the one
again.
Patty's heading, right?
Yeah,
Okay, Just to
yeah.
make sure. Okay, so
So
initially
I've
with
reached
that,
out to her and just said, hey, we understand that this has been rejected and we would like, we'd like to help.
Okay.
So,
for those of you that don't know, I am the Firewise representative for Woodside Fire. And so I can answer a few things on that application specifically. Initially, we had submitted it with some assistance and it was submitted on the wrong forms. They weren't using the original CAL FIRE form. Recently it was submitted and rejected, and I reached out to CAL FIRE, spoke with the representative, and the reason this time it was rejected is they have new reviewers at the state level that are looking at different aspects of it. So we've learned what those are now. I've gotten back to Chip and Patty. We've educated Patty on that stuff. Chip's worked on the application again to resubmit based on what we've learned on the new reviewers, what he's looking for. So we're hoping now this time we get it through. We're also just got Los Trincos Vista Verde approved, and it was first time in, so I took their application as an
hey,
example.
nice.
Yeah, we took theirs as an example to help get the one from Westridge correct. One thing I need you folks to do is really stress that this is a community-driven, operated, ran program. And I'm finding that I have several neighborhoods that say, we want to do this, and when they realize they have to do it, then they take a step back. I want you to do it. No, this isn't my program. I help guide you. I do your assessments. I work with you to do this, but this is your baby. And that's the kind of thing I'm starting to experience is when they have to do the work and they actually have to form the board. They're like, well, that's not really what we wanted to do. So we need to make sure we stress that to the community. Any other
Yeah, so,
questions?
so Marshall, the Westridge application, I guess, got denied on Monday or something?
Yeah, I forget the exact date.
Yeah.
I think it was
and-
last week because I talked to the state last week.
Okay, so I have Patty's login, so I looked at all the documents and everything. And actually, I brought this for you and Kim, but
While you're looking at that, I just want to respond, Marshall. I totally hear you. We want to make sure that the goals, so it's not just a matter of getting this application in and approved in a checklist, right? Like
yeah.
the goals that we put down in our applications should really be community driven, should be things that folks want to do and will participate in. I mean, I understand that you have to create your goals so that Firewise will approve it, right? But it should also be things that people are actually going to be working on, right?
True. And what they want to see though is based on the stuff that we evaluate, the different roofs, gutters, siding and things like that. They want the summaries to reflect improvements, recommendations. So if you summarize that, 50% of the houses don't have Class A roofs, in the recommendation, they want to say, in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to try to improve that percentage. So it kind of mirrors what you find to fix it in the future. That's what they want to see.
Uh-huh.
So I understand people want to do stuff, but they kind of want it more specific to what we're evaluating in that specific information. So I get this sent to me initially when it gets rejected with all the information from Firewise.
Right,
So
but
I got this last week.
yeah, but the point of that review is that the problem is in your assessment document.
It wasn't in my assessment. It was the years in the assessment were labeled as 23 and not 24.
No, that's the action plan. If you read that thing again, it's the assessment. They're saying that the summary and the recommendations from the assessment don't match up with
That's what
the
I was just-
action
That's what I
plan.
was just saying, that the
Yeah.
summary has to meet the recommendations. That's what I just explained. So in the
Right.
summaries, but that's not something I do. That's created by them. I just do the assessment and give you the numbers.
Oh, you didn't actually write the
No,
text that's in the
No, I don't
assessment
write the
document?
plan. I just say like, here's.
No,
I-
not the plan, the assessment. The assessment that has your name on it. Don't you write all the text that goes into that assessment?
Most of it, yes.
Yeah, so that's the part that they're complaining about.
Okay, I reviewed this with Chip and we come up with a plan. We've already submitted to Patty, so I don't want to get a little more confused. We felt like that we reviewed everything and we gave it to her to resubmit and she has the information updated. So I don't know, I don't want to get more people involved with this process and try to work through her. But Chip and I have reviewed the application. We've changed things from the recommendations and we've resubmitted to Patty. So that's where it's at.
Yeah, well, anyways, Dee and I were talking that if Patty, if this is supposed to be a community-driven thing,
Mhm.
then if Patty's comfortable with it, then I think Dee and I would like to maybe massage that document a little more. But I believe we're gonna have to change the assessment document. your
We've already
assessment.
made some changes and sent them to Patty. Have you seen those?
I only saw what's actually on the website.
Okay, no, so we've since taken all that information, Chip's massaged it, I've reviewed it, we've made changes, we've resent it to Patty. We also sent her the Vista Verde Los Trancos application because that one went through the first time, so let's use that as the example, right? And so she also has that, so that just got to her probably in the last 3 or 4 days.
Oh, okay.
So we're working on it on this end all the time, so. You know, and again, more explanations why it got rejected is because they changed the view. That was the biggest answer that I could get, so, and that's out of our control.
So I just have an observation. I looked into Firewise way before they started and then I backed away. And so I'm not part of this group, but my background is volunteers and user manuals. And I have to say, having spent several days trying to fill out a Firewise application for my own, because I'm a masochist, and reading the state website and the federal website and all this, it's really complicated. I don't envy you.
I don't disagree with you.
No, it's really tough. And the typical user, the typical resident, this is a big deal. It's not forming your group that's going to go and plan the events. This application, it's an octopus.
And it's a fair amount of work.
So, I mean, the only thing I can say is the more you can create a template, this is what Westridge did. And if somebody can see their plan and maybe, I know
Different from the
everything is
Firewise?
well, for Firewise application, in other words, when I looked at that application,
Hmm.
there is a sample plan that Chip provides, and also it was even hard to figure out all the pieces that he was sending me to show as examples. I mean, a lot of this is, you almost, if it were me, I would want to present the residents, okay, this is a sample plan, this is a sample application, so that people can see, well, this is what they did, and then tailor it. This is a lot.
Yeah. And-
It's a lot.
It's funny because I'm usually sometimes not involved up front. Stuff will start
Yeah.
happening. They'll start the application, they'll do all this stuff, and all of a sudden I'll hear, oh yeah, Brookside's going to be one of the new, they're working on it. It's like, oh, okay, they're working on it. So I'm not even there in the forefront to help guide that stuff. It's already happening and people are running with it. So
And then by the
maybe
time
we
you
need
get
to-
them, they're frustrated because they've spent all this time and it's not
Sure.
correct.
And we're learning as more and more groups become Firewise and they try to become Firewise, how to, work with them. We're also realizing there's really no check and balances as far as like us following up with like 3-year plans. And is the board doing what they say they're going to do? Once they're Firewise, it's like, okay, you guys are Firewise. Hopefully you're doing what you say you're going to do. And so we're learning that we're going to need to create some processes and go back and check things and make sure we're doing what we say we're doing and interact with them a little more on some of the follow-up.
Do you think there'd be any benefit of us becoming a Firewise town like Hillsborough? Did that help Hillsborough at all?
No, I don't know specifically to help Hillsborough. I've been hearing some people have gotten 2%, 5% discount on their insurance. I haven't heard much more than that. So if there's any other stories out there that people are benefiting from being Firewise, and please let me know.
Oh, I had a question.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you
yeah,
were
yeah,
asking
yeah.
comment.
Well,
How many are in progress in Portola Valley? You said
Um,
Brookside. Is Brookside?
No, Brookside's not official yet, no. In Tola Valley, there's the Westridge is the only one in progress.
So we've got the established ones of Portola Valley Ranch and Alpine Hills. And then we have the applications are Westridge, Woodside Highlands, Grove, and Sequoias, right?
Those are not listed on my dashboard as applications that have been submitted into Firewise. I don't
And then
know.
there's a Blue Oaks
was-
that was talking about Blue Oaks.
There's,
right?
I've heard the Sequoias talk, I've heard Wyndham over here.
I mean, this
Uh,
all started because MJ was looking at this and saying, look, we could get to 60 or 70%, like, and it could help us. But I also wanted to connect the dots and not just have it be a paperwork issue certification. I want it to be actually our neighbors understanding who their neighbors are and working on those goals, like
But-
having them be livable, workable goals.
I think it's a
that-
collaboration of both.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing I'm finding, to explain maybe some of the delays you've heard, is, I've been hearing Woodside Highlands wants to be Firewise, and they're gonna attach on to Skyline. And so, okay, Skyline's application is ready to go in. Well, now we just delayed it, because now we gotta go do the assessment for the Woodside Hills community, community that's tagging on to the Skyline community. And then all of a sudden, last week, I heard, oh, Wyndham's gonna tie onto that now. Well, now that this delayed that application, because we gotta finish Woodside Hills and Wyndham assessments. And so it's like, it slows down the process a lot. The reason that's happening is because communities are finding it's easier to tag on to another Firewise and not create a whole new board
Mm.
and have to do all that. But it's delaying things in the long run. And then I hear things and then nothing really happens and nothing's official on my dashboard for the Firewise. I've heard Sequoias, but I've heard nothing official. I think it was Bud Trapp that asked me if they could do one. I said, yeah, absolutely. I actually called the state and double checked because it's a kind of unique community. So anyhow,
Well,
yeah.
I think Serena could give us an update on maybe Sequoias.
So I am trying to figure out, I read through all of this. I've discussed it briefly with some of the powers that be and some of the committee at Sequoia. And I'm trying to, if I agree with Jennifer, getting hold of Los Trencoses or getting hold of someone who could come, who actually knows what they're talking about, which I certainly didn't and felt like I was drowning when I tried to educate myself. Who could come talk to a group of people so that, because me, myself, and I, and two or three other people at Sequoia thinking this would be a good thing to do theoretically, doesn't hack it. We need to understand really what we're getting ourselves into, how we do this within the Sequoias community. So it hasn't gone very far. I came back east for the spring, so I'm not sure it's going to go anywheres until I get back there. But the administration is theoretically interested in doing it. A number of people on the landscape committee are theoretically interested in doing it. There are a number of people who are interested in finding out from the resident board, think this is a good idea, finding out more about it. I'm having a hard time figuring out how to package that to get started. So you haven't heard anything about it, Marshall, because it hasn't gone anywheres yet, other than thinking this would be a good idea.
So Dee, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, like I kind of mentioned, I'm the representative. It's the first I've heard of it. So I'd be happy to come out and speak with you guys and see if we can come up with a plan.
Great.
Chip Swan's also a very spark in the community, and he deals with so much Firewise to help me out. It's amazing. If I didn't have him, I would be drowning in it. So he's a great resource if you haven't heard his name.
I have talked to him, and his suggestion to me was don't do it now.
Okay.
So
Well, then that would be, I'd like to ask him why.
So as I said, I'm trying to figure out how to put together so that we can start with. I think a lot of this people were also waiting. I know I was personally waiting to see if we were in the 2024 list of the timelines starting, or if we at least had another year before our timeline began. So,
For the defensible space inspections?
yes,
Well, we kind of look at the facility a little different than private property. As far as we're not going to hold, we're going to have to go through, but it's not, individuals aren't going to be responsible for the outside. It's going to be the facility.
right.
Okay.
No, we realize we don't own the property. We just live. So, okay, well, I will take you up on that and schedule a time with you for a meeting motion.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And if you get stuck, I think Dee and MJ can also help
So
support.
I think another one of a workshop, the guidelines one, you definitely knew we did. A workshop's a fabulous idea, multiple of them. I think a Firewise workshop in Portola Valley led with some of the folks who have learned kind of how to get this going, because you've got to have a couple of people in a community be able to explain it enough to the others in the community to get buy-in to start. And I'm still, that activation hurdle is a reaction I'm still trying to get across.
Yes, Sabrina, Chip already does that, I guess, twice a month. For the WPV Ready community, so.
Oh, really?
I-
Okay. He
I
didn't.
actually just learned this today too. I,
didn't-
you know,
When
we're trying to connect the dots and I'm learning as we go also. I'm going to join for the first time, on WPV Ready org events page. There is a Firewise community building working group, and they meet the second Thursday of every month at 4:30 and the last Monday of every month at 7. So,
Okay, that
again,
wasn't
information-
something he mentioned at all when I talked with him. Okay.
so again, things like this, that's why we're trying to connect the dots, right? Like, what can this committee do to bring all this information together in one place, and go from there. So I appreciate it, Serena. I appreciate all your comments and your work.
And Chip's a wonderful guy. You just need to bug him. Just keep bugging him, and then he is so knowledgeable and so wonderful. And then Dudley Carlson's got her hand up, and she's actually involved with Firewise at the ranch.
But
And
Rebecca's
so-
had her.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rebecca, your hand went down first, and you had. your
Yeah,
hand
no,
up.
it's the system. It keeps turning me off. It keeps taking my hand down. I don't know, after it must time out or something. Anyway, I wanted to say I'm in the same situation as Serena. I'm interested in exploring the idea of a Firewise in my community, on my street, Cheyenne and Cherokee Way. And I know absolutely nothing about it. And so I really would appreciate if somebody could just quickly summarize in a few sentences what exactly is involved in not only, creating the Firewise community, but creating the application, and then what the commitments are after that. I don't understand at all. I had spoken to someone in my neighborhood about it, and she's like, well, I don't even know. And I'm like, I don't either. So, but it seems like it would be really important. So if somebody could just really quickly summarize what's involved, that would be great.
Actually, Rebecca, I think you are now part of the Westridge application. Because you're off of Cervantes.
I think that is correct. And on so come to our table May 2nd at Farmers Market. We're going to have a map that shows the different neighborhoods. And I love that you asked this, because this is exactly why we came up with this. It's like, where do you go for help and where do you go for answers? WPV Ready does actually have a page on their website that's a Firewise dedicated page. I would, just for right now today, if that's, it's a great link and resource for you to go to and have those, general questions answered. But again,
there was mention about assessments though. What happens there with assessments?
Oh, that you mean in relation to Firewise?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the assessment that the fire district does of the whole community, the whole Firewise community that's applying. So
I see.
Marshall has already done an assessment that includes the Cervantes area.
it's a
I'll send you
required
link to
component.
the
Yeah, it's a
map.
required component to get the application in. And I think there are some examples, and you can see the template of that application on that website, on that page.
It's not an inspection like a property inspection. What it is they characterize the nature of the neighborhood, like What percentage has flammable roofs? What percentage is wood homes? How old are the homes? So it's so the Firewise can get a snapshot of what this neighborhood is like, but it's not going to affect your insurance, or it's not, this isn't an enforcement precursor where they're doing a full inspection of your property. It's an assessment where they walk the neighborhood and characterize it. So it's like a modeling technique. Is that
But it
correct?
sounds like there's some commitments that you're going to have to make on behalf of the Firewise community that involves things like getting rid of those shake roofs and
No,
changing out
No.
the thing. And I'm just wondering how, how did the residents of that new Firewise community learn that they're supposed to do something in the next 5 years or whatever?
Yeah, you're supposed to learn that from your block leader, which would be Kathy Guthrie.
but there
Kathy
is
who?
there is no commitment you make as a Firewise community other than every 2 years you have to submit that you've spent so much money doing certain mitigation. And in our case, chipping, the price you pay for chipping to the district can provide that receipt. And if a few people have cut down trees, that applies, so that your leader submits those receipts like every 2 years. And then you have like an event, like a coffee at somebody's house, or maybe you participate in a wildfire preparedness fair. But there is no commitment that every homeowner has to, unfortunately, I wish there was. There is no commitment that for any particular homeowner to do anything. And then when you create your plan, it's like a general direction of where you'd like to go. But am I right? There's,
Yeah, Leah, come to
Okay.
the table on May 2nd. And this is, again, I appreciate the question and I appreciate this discussion. This has been one of the better meetings that we've had because people have questions and we're trying to connect the dots. I would love it if everybody in their block knew what the goals were and came up with their own plan to how to make that work. There is no requirement that you have to do it, but there's nothing saying, what we're saying is how can, again, the goal, let's all zoom out. The goal is to mitigate risk and to get people involved and especially neighbors involved, because that's where you're gonna, if you start working as a group, that's where you're gonna get the most bang for your buck, and for your energy and time. And we just thought that this committee could help bridge those gaps. So.
and
we
get
move
your
on?
discount on your insurance because of what is it, they have to give you like between 2 to 5%?
Yeah,
No.
May 2nd. Let's,
Well, okay, yeah. Okay, Dudley, go ahead. And I've got to get to my insurance survey. Yes, I don't know. Dudley, ask your question and then we can close out because they want to leave. Dudley, are you still there? I think we've lost Dudley. Yeah, I think you can go. Thank you so
No,
much.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was unmuting the wrong way. The ranch was the first community that got certified 10 years, 12 years ago, and a great deal has changed since then. But in terms of those, like what Rebecca is describing, people who simply need to sit down and have a conversation about the very beginning, I would be more than happy to do that for anybody who needs help. That would include the sequoias, although that's a very different kind of approach. CHIP is definitely the place to go for the details of filling out this current application, CHIP and Marshall and that sort of thing. But if you just need your hand held while you figure out, do we or don't we want to do this and where do we start to talk about it? My email is dudley.carlson@gmail.com. I'm in 650 and my phone number is 52.
Hey, Dudley, this is being recorded. Don't give out that.
I don't
info.
mind it being recorded. I will do this for anybody in town. 529-1815. Or you can erase that if you feel it needs to be. But basically, as a neighbor, I would be happy to help any other neighbor in town who's trying to get started and wants to talk to somebody.
Thank you.
thank you, Dudley, for that offer, and I'm happy to be there to assist you as well.
I think also that the assessments the fire department will be doing after this ordinance gets passed will be very helpful in people understanding what they have to do. And also doing the FireWise process will help them understand what the ordinance requires of them. They're in some ways mutually helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Dudley. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any more comments or questions? I'm so glad you guys are doing this work on Fireway. It's so important. And communications, just to be a communication funnel so we have a way to communicate. Okay, so they are so lucky they left. Unfortunately, we are moving on to 4C, discussion of the insurance survey. And I'm so sorry, but I do have to go through this. Hopefully you'll be completely mesmerized. Because it's such an interesting topic and you're going to be so impressed. So I will zip through this. If you want me to slow down, if I'm boring you, just break in, ask questions, whatever. Okay. So the Insurance and Finance Subcommittee. So the topic here is a home insurance survey. And we first proposed doing this kind of a survey back in March of 2022. And our current town manager said he didn't think that it was necessary because people wouldn't fill out the survey and we didn't really have data that needed to be collected. So Wanda and I were brainstorming and we ran this by our current town manager a couple weeks ago, and we were shocked how enthusiastic he was. He really, really liked the idea. A matter of fact, he gave us the goal of the survey, and he said that the results of the survey were going to be shared not only with the town council, but also he thought that they should be shared with the powers that be at the county and state level. So that's what our goal is to create a survey that has data that might be relevant. So our tentative schedule tonight, I just want the general approval. I'm going to give you a little quick slideshow, and then I'm actually going to run through a survey we've created and show you the report that it can generate. And then tomorrow, so I just want your general approval tonight. And then over the next month, I want you to give me very specific input. So I'm going to send you tomorrow a link, unless you tell me today, forget it. Don't do anything that you're thinking about. If you like the general direction, you're going to get a link to the survey that I run you through tonight so that you can nitpick the actual questions and really look at them. I'm also going to send you the report so you can really look at the report and think about this and give really valuable insight. And then I just want you to send me a blind email because of course we can't discuss it over email because of Brown Acts, but you're going to send me your comments. And then Wanda and I will discuss those comments over the next couple of months. And then in June, because we have the workshop in May, we'll come back in June and we'll show you the revised survey based on your comments. Residents will have another chance to chime in. And then if you like what we've presented in June, July, we would send it to the town manager and he and his staff would provide input. We really think it's important that we create the first draft because part of his comments were he's delighted that we're doing this because he doesn't have the staff to do it. And we think that we understand what the issues are enough to create this draft survey. So there might be some things that I think he might tweak, but I don't foresee him saying he wants a completely different survey. And then if he approves it, I'm hoping that in August we could actually send out this survey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the data we collect. So first of all, this survey collects incidents of home insurance cancellation, premium changes, or residents' general satisfaction over multiple years. This is not a static survey that a resident fills out yearly. So I might fill out this survey 5 times in the next 3 months. I might fill it out tonight and say, I love my insurance company. I've been with them for 25 years. Tomorrow, they increase my premium. I get on the survey again. I say, hey, they increased my premium by 10%. And they told me this was the reason. And then in 3 months, I might get canceled and I'll go back to the same survey and I say, hey, I got canceled and here's why. So this is an incident tracking survey. We don't capture any resident data such as name, email, home address, or phone number. So we capture the street, but not the address because there's privacy concerns. We chose, and I'm zipping through this because I know we're late. We chose Google Forms because it's free, and it's powerful.
Are you sharing slides?
Oh, shoot. Oh, my gosh. No,
Sorry.
I'm not. No, I'm not. Okay. Did you need to see any of that? Well, you could. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me that. It would have been really silly when I started,
Oh, you're on the
doing
last slide.
Yeah, I am on the last slide. Okay.
Okay.
So here you go. You guys can stop your Google. There was nothing in here. Okay, so I'm using Google Forms. There is questions about what user account will capture the data. So right now, the survey's on my Google account. The data is captured on my account. The town may want to put it on their account. We'll talk about it. And then there's, I want you to keep in mind when you look at these questions, it's really easy to come up with a better worded question that's shorter and more concise. But with Google Forms, question you ask is the title of the report. And there's this like a 3-layered survey. So if we don't have questions that are explicit, when that report comes, you're not going to understand, are you talking about a premium increase after a cancellation and a mitigation remedy, or are you talking about a premium increase after you've just had the same insurance company and they increased your premium? So just look at the report and then look at the survey before you think about a different question. Okay, so I'm going to, I'm sorry about that. And here I have this nice slideshow. So here I am on Google and I'm going to go to preview. And of course, beta software, I just wanted to make a big statement that this is all temporary test data, right?
You need to change to a
Okay, can
different
you see this?
projection film.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I do, don't I? Stop. Thank you. Okay. Righty. And I make survey. So it's beta. This is all test data. It's going to get trashed. I do want to point out you don't need a Google account to fill out the survey. It's going to take less than 5 minutes. Have your insurance policy information ready so you don't have to scramble for it. And this was created by our committee. I want people to know it's a committee survey. I think this is very similar to what they did for the ADU survey with Google Forms. And we started by saying we will take information for any insurance cancellation or premium change within the last 2 years. Okay. And you're also welcome to fill out the survey if you're just happy with your insurance and you want to tell us. No street numbers, names, et cetera, are going to be collected, and it's only going to be, this data is only going to be used by the committee and the town of Portola Valley. And then of course I give them our email if they have technical problems. So I'm just going to actually fill this out. So the first thing is you're going to fill out your street name. And then you have 3 choices. You can choose home insurance cancellation. And this includes if you're canceled, but you were able to avoid cancellation by mitigating a fire hazard. Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it? A home insurance premium increase or decrease, or I have great insurance and I want the town to know. So I'm going to choose home insurance cancellation. So what's the name of your insurance company? So I originally started with multiple choice and then I got to thinking, well, gee, we're starting to get into surplus insurance companies. What if you have, fair plan and something else? So we're letting them type it in. The date of your cancellation. So let's say. It was last month. And then we thought it was relevant. How long have you had this insurance policy? Was there an on-site inspection? Let's say no. Did they give you any reason for cancellation? Again, I started out with a multiple choice and then I realized we were going to lose the opportunity to collect explicit data. And I'll show you at the end that these answers are captured in a sheet and we could create our own reports based on this. So let's say, let me see. I think I spelled that wrong, whatever. So when you received your cancellation notice, were you given a chance to avoid cancellation? So if I select no, I will go directly to the cancellation section. But if I said yes, I was given a chance to mitigate. We go here for mitigation work. And did you perform the mitigation work? I say yes. If I say no, again, I go to cancellation. And I can describe, okay. And then this really gives us a chance to capture everything somebody might have done, especially if it's defensible space work. And did you avoid cancellation by performing the mitigation work? If I say yes, it's a congratulations, and we ask about premium increases. If I say no, we go to cancellation. Have you found new homeowners policy? If I say no, it basically says, we're sorry to hear that, and would you like us to know anything about your search? But if I say yes, it says, okay, what's the name of your new insurance company? Has your premium increased or decreased? About how much? I kind of played around with this. This is probably my least favorite multiple choice. And then were you given a chance to lower your premium? And you can answer. And I felt that it was important to let people really discuss this rather than do a multiple choice. And you don't have to answer this. And then just a generic, do you want us to know anything else? So do you want me to go back and go through the other scenarios? They're very similar.
You're going to send us this.
I'm
so we get
going
the
to
data.
send this to you in detail. Basically, if you have a home insurance premium increase or decrease, I ask you what insurance company, how much? Did they give you a chance to lower or lower your, with the decrease? I just say, that's great to know. Thank you. But I don't think we're going to get many of that. And then I have great insurance. I ask, well, who's the insurance company and how long? So I want to show you the report it generates. I was really pleased. So we get a snapshot of the streets that might get really cluttered as time goes on if we get a lot of responses. You can see that these graphs are very easy to read. This is going to be a very interesting thing to watch. Did we see certain cancellations during certain insurance events? It's going to be interesting to see, are these long-term policies, or these people that hadn't been with the insurance companies for very long? I'm very interested to see how many on-site inspections that there are. And then with this data, you're going to see in a few seconds, this is in a sheet or like an Excel spreadsheet type thing. And we can chart this, we can graph this in different ways. So this is a nice automatic report tool that's really easy for us. So then if we actually look at the raw data, so I'm just going to pick one row. It's not impossible to graph this in some way, and we could certainly capture some of the data where we ask for more of an explanation, and we could, create our own table. So it certainly would be possible for us to, extract the kind of data we want. We're going to capture a lot of data. So that's our direction. And then we're going to give you a chance to give us a lot of feedback. So thoughts in general?
I think this is fantastic. I love it. I love the format. I love how it you're setting up. It's a lot of time. Because I just feel like that insurance is such a moving game right now. And that's, I think, the biggest worry on folks' minds. And it's so disheartening when people come to us and say, I've been canceled, what to do. So collecting data and really understanding where we are, I think is important. So I appreciate your efforts.
Right? No.
Yeah, I think the information will be really valuable, just for all of us to know what's going on. I have one question, which is that if this is incident-based and anonymous, and if people do it multiple times, you won't actually know how many different people have responded. So you won't know what percent of the town really,
That's true. But
which would be, I would think,
Question,
helpful to
actually,
know.
no, it's true. It's true. But, we can't capture emails because that's a privacy concern. Maybe if,
Could you add, like, is this a second time or something? I mean, is there a way to?
I could do that, but I think it might
Applicable.
confuse people, but if we thought we
Good
could,
point. Yeah.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a really good point. And it's a dilemma because I would love to be able to get residents' names and everything, but but we could add a question at the end, maybe at the end, so it wouldn't confuse them and that they would,
Have you filled this out before or something?
right, the
or-
last thing we ask, how many times? But I'm not sure even that would, yeah, we could do that. I could think of that. That's a good comment. Okay. Any other comments?
Well, my concern that I came up with in the last week or two is how many people are going without insurance now that prices are going crazy. My sister in Arinda got canceled a couple weeks ago, and when she looked around, she got a quote from Geico for $18,000. So she's asking me about, what do I think about her paying off her mortgage and then she'll just go without insurance. So I would like that survey to ask if people are going without insurance.
Well, it does, because if you report that your insurance was canceled, and so let's say your insurance was canceled 2 years ago and you don't have insurance. We ask you, do you have homeowner insurance now? And if you say no, it says, can you tell us about your insurance search? And they would say, I decided not to have insurance.
Okay. Yeah, because, I looked at some IRS stats, for the 2021 returns, and it turned out that only about 45% of Portola Valley residents were reporting mortgage interest. And it turns out about 45% of Portola Valley is 65 or over. So therefore, they would have paid off their mortgage. So I'm just concerned if we are going to become a community where people are not insured.
Do you think it would be worth adding a fourth choice at the beginning? I have no insurance?
Yes.
Yeah, make it
Yeah,
clear.
I think that's the most important thing to know.
Right.
Wow, I never even thought about it.
No, that's
I mean,
great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Is there, I don't know how much information you want to provide as well as getting information back through a survey, but I was looking at the California Department of Insurance website recently, and, you know, they have really a lot of good information on which insurers are issuing policies and it's
But they
not good.
don't, but they're not in Portola Valley that I know of. This is the problem. You go on that
Well,
insurance.
that's what I'm saying is, I mean, they have a long list of insurers and it'd be nice to know if
Yeah,
there are some. And they say you can check, you know, are they issuing policies in high wildfire risk areas and you can select it that way. I mean, they have some pretty good information by zip code on cancellations and renewals and
I didn't see that.
it's only up through 2021. So
Oh, okay.
by zip
Okay.
code information, I think it takes them a year or maybe more. But I was looking at the data for Portola Valley from, they have it 2015 through 2021 available now.
Well, what's really interesting too is how many people that have to choose between the fair plan or a surplus insurance company that might be offering them a subpar policy.
But that's good to know. So historically, once we start collecting this
Yeah.
data, you can see the, really drastic changes that are happening. So
Well, and it started by 2021.
Yeah, I'm going to attend that workshop next week and this new regulation is going to be really interesting to follow. I'll give a report in June on that. Okay, so when you assess this survey and I'm going to get to questions, Dave. What I'm really interested in, did you understand the question? And don't be afraid to make the same suggestion you made here to remind me. I have notes. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So David, you have a question?
I have
Yeah.
comments, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. First of all, I think it's an amazing survey. I think it's wonderful. I think both Karen Vatra and I have tried to kind of do this informally through PD Forum and collect random scattered bits of data, which is semi-hopeless. 4 quick points. One is a lot of the increases are a lot larger than 30%, which I think was your top category. We had one year where it like went up by 250%. So something to think about. Second, it'd be harder to do because you'd need to make a little map. But I think more relevant than street name, if it was possible, would be kind of neighborhood. Like, okay, I don't know, like we have 6 zones on the map and click the zone you're in or whatever. But I don't envy you guys the work, so I'm not volunteering to do it. On privacy, I don't think there's like a law that we can't have a Google Doc that requires more information from people. I do think it's harder, so I'm all for getting it done. And finally, I think in terms of uninsured, what I've been weirdly thinking about is, a lot of us don't carry earthquake insurance because it is so expensive and so limited that, I don't know, if the whole place went down, we could sell the lot and do whatever. And I'm not saying that should be part of the survey, but I do think there's going to be a changing dynamic when people are paying 10 times more for their fire insurance than they were before, especially in the case of older houses like ours. It's kind of like, well, I don't know, if someone buys it, they're going to tear it down, probably. So I don't know if you can incorporate that, but when you talk about uninsured, if people say that, it might be like, okay, what's your point? But thanks. I think it's a great effort.
So I want to go through this. So good comments. Thank you. So if we ask if you're not insured, you want to ask if it's specifically just fire insurance? Because I don't know whether you can get home insurance without fire insurance.
You can actually. That's the weird part about the FAIR plan. The FAIR plan only covers fire. So you still need a regular homeowner's insurance plan, which is, I haven't fortunately had to go through that, and somebody else here may have, but you can get, and more maybe you can get if you're denied fire insurance. I'm not the expert, but I do think people may start to say the fire insurance part, since that was canceled, I'm not going to get that. I'm going to get the policy that says everything but fire, and then worry about it later.
So we would ask, check this box if you have no home insurance or no fire insurance, and then go to, please check what is most true. I have no home insurance and no fire insurance, or I have home insurance, but not fire insurance. Okay.
Yeah, or just give them a little text box to write in, like, here's my theory, yeah, kind of like earthquake insurance, like, why don't you have it? Or just maybe they
Yeah.
write a little thing about why I don't have it. I
Yeah.
can't afford it, whatever, but
Okay. And then, your point about the increase and the boxes, I started out with 6 boxes. I said, okay, 10 to 20%, 20 to 30. And then I realized it's just going to take so long. I figured I'd let them write it in, but maybe I need
okay.
more boxes. I just wanted to keep it simple. And that's something to think about as you look at this. Were the percentages we suggested correct, or maybe we could just say, how much did your premium increase percentage? By what percent? But then Wanda didn't think most people could calculate the percentage.
I think you should share an example, because percentages, people interpret that incorrectly a lot of times. So I would suggest keep your multiple choice.
And maybe
but
add.
but like do an example, right? Like,
Well, that could be part of your comment.
For-
What
I
do
would be
you
happy to do that.
think
Happy
would
to
be
do
a
that.
good example? Okay, and then as far as the map, we talked about actually creating a map, but we just thought you're going to have the street, and in most cases, if you give a street that's pretty descriptive, we thought about maybe suggesting a cross street.
Hmm.
But do we really care? Is it, even if you said the ranch, every house is so different. I don't think it really matters. I think it's just, and then for privacy, if the town manager wants to collect that information, he can, but I just think because we're a committee, we wanted to start out very benign, and there has been issues in the past about capturing emails.
All makes perfect sense. And I think in a year, assuming this goes well, we'll know 1,000 times more about what people contribute and what they don't, and what we wish we had that we didn't. So that's perfect. Thank you.
So if the comments you submit to me are small enough, and Wanda and I can get it incorporated, we may send it out for a second comment session. And if you guys really like it, I may just send it to the town manager so that in June I can actually have his comments too.
Sure.
I have one other general recommendation, and that is to make sure that whatever data you capture also covers what the California Department of Insurance covers, so that you can sort of compare. So in their analysis, they break it down: insured, initiated, non-renewed versus insurer initiated, non-renewed. So if you could have that dichotomy, it would be really
Consistent language.
helpful because of the way the state analyzes it. I mean, I
But-
can show you the graph, but
I would love to just know the page you're going to,
Okay.
because you obviously have that.
no, I'm
Government
just
mind.
thinking that, it just to expand the context of the survey.
Yeah, no, it's good. Be consistent
Yeah.
in the language. Yep.
So that would be people that canceled their insurance because, well, I never even thought about that. Is that a whole, that would be under, I have no insurance because I canceled it because I didn't want to pay for it. But if my homeowner insurance got canceled, that means I canceled it. Yeah, okay, yeah,
Okay,
that
I'll
would be
send
good.
you- Yeah. I'll
Send
that
it to
you.
me. Well, and when I send you the link.
Yep.
That would be great. Any other comments on this insurance topic? Yes, I'm sorry, Craig. I'm sorry, I just figured you'd just get
Speak
up and
which I
start
usually do. I know,
talking.
it's all right.
Not the
so.
shy guy.
Yeah,
you can't- you
that's,
can't
I'm
do
not the
that.
shy guy. So a couple of things. First of all, yeah, great. I think that the fact you guys are moving forward on this is fabulous. I would say that the council has already mandated this, under the, post-adoption housing element plan. So there's a section in there that talks about gathering information stuff. So we should figure out how to dovetail these things together, but this would be great. So.
Well, and Sharice said he was going to present, you missed that slide. Of course, I didn't put it up, but Sharice said his response, because we asked him about this and he said, this is fantastic because I don't have staff to do it.
Yeah.
And he said his goal for this would be to present it to the town council and then present it to the powers that be in the county and the state level. So how would I find out? Can you give me the information you want collected?
You just look at the post-adoption plan. You'll see, I forget, it's like element 5 or something. But yeah, I mean, just reach out and I can connect you with it. And it's just, we just want to dovetail the stuff because we basically in that plan said that we would look at insurance issues. It wasn't super
Yeah.
specific, and this survey would then start to become a specific thing. So I think that's great. Let's see, the other thing I would say is we should put this on a town account of some kind. Because
Yeah.
if it's going to run for multiple years, I mean, you may or may not be here. If it's your personal account and then
Right.
we lose the data, that would be a drag. It was not clear to me how this was going to get deployed. Is this going to be a send it out to PV form? Is it putting in the website or is this kind of TBD right now?
You know, this is under the direction of the town manager. So once he approves it, I assumed Carrie would want to put this on her account. And at minimum, I would like us to send out a postcard, but I'm hoping that, you know, I also have some emails we can send out, but yeah, we're going to want to get this, blitz it, and then keep blitzing it so that as these insurance problems happen, we can get everybody to do this. But that's great if we can actually help the town with the,
Yeah, that'd be great. So then the thing I would remind you is make sure when you're thinking about your budget that you have budget to mail out a postcard.
I already have it in there, and then this would be a good excuse if the budget expires and I need more.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So, next one was data cleaning. What I don't remember with Google Sheets is when you go on the spreadsheet where all the answers, if you go in there and edit that stuff, like say somebody put in Alpine and they spell it wrong, but you can tell what they meant. Can you go into that spreadsheet and correct
yeah.
it and then it'll end up in the right bucket? So
Yeah.
it's always
Yeah.
generating the graphs and the report off
Yes.
that spreadsheet. So
And I showed
whatever's-
that in the demo.
Yeah, so
yeah.
whatever's there, if you go in and
Right.
edit it, so you
Right.
can go and clean it up.
Right, and also we can copy the more, the phrases and the sentences and copy it to another sheet and then simplify the data and graph it. So we can extract data in a lot of ways from sheets, yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
cleaning it up so you have sort of a source
Yeah.
of truth that you can keep track of is good. And then the last thing is I would suggest you put an optional email. Like I think you do, it's not a privacy issue, but it is whether somebody's going to fill it out. So I think at the end, I would put something that says, optionally, would you give us your email in case we want to get a hold of you to get some more information? And that would both help for people who are willing to do it so that you could start keying these things together. And it would also, if you're like, I can't understand what you wrote here, it would give us an opportunity to reach out. And if they chose, some people are like, I'm not giving that information away, they'd still fill out the survey. So I would put it at the end and make it optional. That would be my recommendation. But other than that, yeah, I think this will be fabulous. There's obviously a lot of public sentiment around this and wanting to better understand it, what's going on.
Right.
So I think it's really going to be helpful.
And I think that probably Sharif will have quite a bit to say. And then I was thinking that if let's say we collect data and in 4 months, there's something significant we can report, we would do that kind of graphing and we'd write like a little summary for him. And then that way we're fulfilling something that the staff doesn't need to do.
Yeah, no, this,
Yeah.
like I said, this is great. And I actually don't think, from what I've seen, I think Sharif's going to look at this and say, this is awesome. and we're going to tweak a couple of things and we can move forward. So no,
Right.
I think great job. Thanks.
Right. Okay, I think we're Conservation Committee, 5B.
Just a couple things. The Conservation Committee has been trying to think about how to have more oversight or more scrutiny of things like people who have detrichia in their yards or other really invasive things. And we were trying to figure out a way to have, say, multiple inspections of properties by ASCC at the conclusion of a project, because often you can't tell when there's an invasive because the inspection is at the wrong time of year. So I just want the committee to know that one of the things we're initiating now, and we've tried it with a couple of properties, is for the conservation review of the landscape plan, if detrichia is already present, just asking that multiple review or multiple inspection be part of the conditions for approval. It's better than, well, it's sort of testing the water on that, I guess. The other thing that we're interested in is people who are doing trail work on their properties and thinking about how that relates to fire risk reduction and seeing if the town either wants us to come up with guidelines for trails that might serve as fire breaks, but also people with larger properties want to have trails and what that might entail. Just a way to sort of expand the thinking about reconciling conservation with fire risk reduction. These are private trails on people's properties, but sometimes they involve a fair amount of cut and fill. And so it's something that ASCC cares about if it gets to be enough cut and fill. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Conservation. You guys do fantastic work. Okay, anything else? Okay, so for 6A agenda for next month, obviously next month's going to be the workshop. In June, I'll come back. I'll do the survey. We may want to start in June, having an extra hour we'll just dedicate to guideline status after the workshops. Maybe we have 1 or 2 workshops on the guidelines, but you may need time. Just think about it, that it's a standing agenda item where we just say, we're going to spend an hour and you guys are going to discuss the details of this document, because it's not getting done with 1 or 2 workshops. It's going to be constant questions I think people are going to bring to us and concerns. Okay, and then quorum check for next month. Everyone's here? Okay. All right. Just kind of let me know if your vacation is going to overlap any of the committee meetings so that I can reach out to other people. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay. All right. Return. Thank you very
Folks.
much.
Yeah.
Ciao.